After Democrats on the House Oversight Committee released a copy of the birthday note Donald Trump allegedly sent to Jeffrey Epstein, Republican lawmakers are insisting it's not Trump's signature on the lewd note.
Well, I don't know. I mean, anybody can do a signature.
You think really someone might have just forged this somehow?
Yeah, I mean, somehow it's so easy to do.
From what I see, it's not a signature. I've seen Donald Trump sign a million things.
This doesn't look like his signature to you?
Nope.
I highly doubt that it is.
Really? I mean, how someone could have forged this?
Well, are we talking about the birthday card
The letter to Trump, apparently.
Oh, I would, that's new for me. I've not seen that.
We'll let other people decide whether it's real or not.
But Trump's signature in letters to George Conway and our own Lawrence O'Donnell shows striking similarities to the 2003 birthday note provided to the Oversight Committee by the Epstein estate. Other outlets, like the New York Times, have examined several letters not independently reviewed by NBC News, but they reached the same conclusions. But Trump continues to double down, denying he signed or drew the letter and telling NBC News that Epstein is, quote, a dead issue. Folks, the survivors of Epstein's abuse who are still seeking justice and accountability, well, they would disagree. Joining us now is MSNBC political analyst and senior executive editor of Bloomberg Opinion, Tim O'Brien, and host of the Bulwark podcast, our friend Tim Miller. He's also an MSNBC political analyst.
Well, look, the reality here is, Tim, this is not all the Tims, actually. Tim Miller, Tim O'Brien. I love this. I'll just say all the Tims. Well, this is the reality here, Tim Miller, is that this issue is not dead. It is, in fact, defining. That is the D word he is looking for. It is defining for Donald Trump. Now, I'm not saying folks are going to, MAGA Republicans are running away from him in droves, but this is a point of contention. You know how I know? Because Donald Trump himself keeps talking about it, and the story keeps changing. And I frankly think it's a bunch of stuff that I can't say on this family show that people actually spent their time today and yesterday evening arguing about his signature. It's the man's signature. Let's go to the root of the issue here.
Yeah, I mean, do we really need to have handwriting experts out here? Like, this is just, like, this is silly. Like, we're into silliness time. It's obviously a signature. They were friends. They were more than friends. They were close associates. We have testimony from multiple of Epstein's victims that they were brought to Donald Trump's office at Trump Tower. They hung out together in South Florida. Remember, there was the one calendar girl party we just learned about where Jeffrey Epstein was the only man invited to it. So, look, these guys were this close. They obviously, so this is obviously the letter. The question is, what else is out there, right? Like, why would you make this preposterous defense? Like, if Trump was really innocent here, right, you could imagine a more believable defense, something that's like, hey, I signed a bunch of stuff back then. Jalen sent me this thing. I was like, whatever. I was building buildings. I was busy. Like, I signed it, I guess. We were friends. And when I found out he was a bad guy, we stopped being friends. Right? You could give an excuse like that. To give this bald-faced lie, to make his supporters go around and try to tell people they can't believe their lying eyes, to me, indicates somebody that knows he's guilty, knows there's more information in there, in those files, and he feels like the only way out is to do what he's done so many times before, which is to give a big lie and hope that his followers go along with it.
Tim O'Brien, I agree with Tim Miller that there's no point in treating this like a calligraphy competition. That is beyond the point here. And you have been the one from the beginning who has said to us, follow the money. The likelihood is that is actually going to lead you to crimes. We know that members of the House Oversight Committee, at least their staff, they're going to get access to some elements of the Epstein estate. They're going to be able to see documents unredacted. What would you have them look for?
Well, they should look for tax shelters. It's interesting that this whole investigation is running apace with the Trump administration getting the IRS to turn its back on patently obvious abusive tax shelters used by corporations and wealthy people. That was one of the services Jeffrey Epstein provided to his clients. He engineered tax shelters for them. Leon Black and others have said that's what they were grateful to him for. This issue of whether or not this is his signature is a total distraction. The issue is whether or not he had a relationship with Epstein, and the letter establishes that. The Wall Street Journal, when they first covered this, didn't say it was necessarily his signature. They simply said he sent the letter to Epstein. And so why did he have a relationship with Epstein? And why isn't he willing to become more transparent and bring more things out in the open about why that relationship continued to exist? Trump told me himself in Palm Beach that they were good friends. He took me on the tour of a house in Palm Beach that he won in a bidding war against Jeffrey Epstein, but told me in 2005, we're still friends. He's mad he lost the bidding war, but we're still friends. I suspect the biggest thing that what Trump is afraid of in all of this is our financial shell games and services that Epstein provided for Trump that Trump doesn't want to get out into the wild.
Mr. Miller, picking up where Tim just left off, the financial shell game, yes, it is a financial shell game with a pedophile. All right? Because you can't drop that piece off the table. At the end of the day, we follow the money. But at the core of this is how young girls were abused by grown men in a universe curated by Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. And whether directly or indirectly, Donald Trump was in it. He touched it. He was a part of it. And so it's fascinating to me that in the face of all of that, seemingly, there is nothing that will apparently separate the lips of certain Republicans from the behind of Donald Trump. And they will always find a way to excuse the most outrageous behavior because they don't want to be on the wrong side. I take note of an article regarding Trump and Johnson, noting many in the party have spent years suggesting there's a massive cover-up aimed at protecting Epstein's associates from PR and legal fallout. But opposing Trump, especially on a potent issue, is always a risky proposition. For Republican elected officials. Just ask the Republicans who voted to impeach him in 2021. That was 2021. Impeachment is not tagged to pedophilia. So when you have this new element, it changes the conversation for a lot of Americans, and apparently it has changed the conversation for a number of folks in the MAGA-verse. What say you, my friend, about this seemingly inability to separate, even on this, for a number of Republicans?
Well, look, these guys, they haven't lost yet by putting their lips on Trump's behind, right? And if they're still in Congress, that's been a safe bet for them, right?
There it is.
Trump has worked for them so far, so why not? So why do something different? It's shameful, but.
One of the things with all of this news and all the things we've been covering about Donald Trump for the last decade plus that I would note is that he is supposed to be good at lying. That is supposed to be a thing he is good at. I mean, the conventional wisdom in MAGA land, at least, is that if Trump doesn't like something, whether it's a news story or a statistic or an immutable law of physics, he can just say it's fake over and over and over again. And eventually the theory is it will go away. Now, I would not have necessarily predicted that the Epstein files, I didn't predict it all. I wouldn't have thought this at all, that the Epstein files would be the issue that caught him up in his own blatant lies to a point where it seems to be one of his biggest problems. But 8 months into his second term, he is having a very hard time explaining himself. I mean, yesterday we finally got the highly anticipated Epstein birthday book. I was just talking about it with Chris. The one that was first reported on by the Wall Street Journal back in July that was said to include at the time a body letter from Trump to Epstein, which we didn't see at the time. And Trump was so furious, remember that, a couple months ago, about that reporting that he immediately sued the Wall Street Journal and its parent company for defamation, declaring in open court that that birthday letter did not exist. Well, turns out, as we all, basically all of you watching would have predicted, we knew that would be the case all along, the letter definitely does exist, as do a whole bunch of other creepy letters to Epstein that were compiled in that birthday book. Now, I should warn you, many of the 200-plus pages, which were contributed by Epstein's friends, allude to his lifestyle with lewd references and suggestive images and incredibly crude and disgusting jokes. I mean, for example, one contributor expresses birthday greetings to Degenerate One, saying, "So many girls, so little time." Ugh. Another contributor wrote a poem, noting that despite being an outrage to public decency, Epstein had avoided the penitentiary. One page seems to reference his lifestyle through clip art, depicting his plane and women in swimwear. You can see that on the screen, a little bizarre birthday note there. Then there is this particularly creepy illustration on the screen right now. appearing to show Epstein giving candy and balloons to female children in 1983, and then receiving massages and other things, apparently from those same girls, 20 years later. Disgusting. Now, taken together, they suggest, of course, all of this stuff, these were all birthday notes to the same guy, suggest that his behavior was a very open secret. I think we all know that by now. And it was among those horrifying pages that we saw this birthday message, appearing exactly as it was first described by the Wall Street Journal and bearing Trump's very distinctive signature. And so Trump, who confidently told the world that this drawing did not exist, of course changed his tune. I mean, immediately the White House and its allies started pushing a new claim. Now they say that it's not the letter that is fake, but Trump's signature on the letter that is fake. Maybe they sat in a meeting and discussed that was the thing they should say. Who knows? Never mind the fact that there are multiple nearly identical examples of Trump's signature on letters he has signed throughout the years. You can see them all on the screen, including ones he himself published in a book called Letters to Trump. Who knew when he had that book put out it would be so apt today? Now, Trump's claim that this signature was fake was so obviously far-fetched that by this morning, even Trump himself appeared to have given up selling that particular storyline. When reached by NBC News, Trump did something he almost never does. Rarely, can barely count how many times he's done it. He gave a rare no comment, basically. He said, quote, "I don't comment on something that's a dead issue." As if saying it's a dead issue means it's a dead issue. But clearly the issue is still very much alive, because by this evening, Trump was back to denying that he had anything to do with it.
It's not my signature, and it's not the way I speak. And anybody that's covered me for a long time know that's not my language. It's nonsense. And frankly, you're wasting your time.
This is getting bad for Trump. And what you saw there was somebody who's literally written books on Trump and has covered Trump even before his run for office, right? These are people that covered Donald Trump, the businessman, Donald Trump, the TV guy, and covered him as, you know, a phenomenon, but also as somebody who, even before he got involved into politics, was doing, let's say, sketchy stuff. Remember, some of the things that he's been sued over and convicted of, some of the things that he did actually sort of predate him being president. Connected to his first campaign in some cases, but predating it in others. Like, look at the Gene Carroll stuff, going all the way back to before I was born, I think, or certainly when I was very, very young. All of this demonstrates that that Donald has always been skeevy. But if there's somebody that's going to know who Trump is, how he ticks, how he especially ticked and acted, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, it's going to be people that covered him before he went down the escalator. And in terms of knowing things about the signature, this guy's going to know too. So, Trump's going to try to bend reality and try to fool you into thinking that he's totally innocent. But the people who know Trump the best know how awful he is. Look at what his ex-wife said about him in that depositions and before. How awful he was to her, right? Look at how so much of his family is dysfunctional. The people that know Trump, not just people like me and you that observe this a-hole from afar, but the people that know him intimately know how monstrous he is.